Hey, what's going on guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'll be reviewing the Vans MTE UltraRange Neo VR3. So I have been sitting on this shoe for a while. I have logged a good amount of miles into them. So three things to like with this shoe is number one, I like the comfort of this model. So the shoe has a nice cushy EVA foam midsole. And if you are somebody who wants a shoe for walking about all day, so if you're going to Disney, for example, a theme park, or if you're going on vacation, you want that shoe you can travel in, this can be a great option to look into. It breathes decently well up here in the forefoot and midfoot despite having these suede overlays, and it has a nice level of comfort with the midsole. So the whole experience in this shoe I think just does a good job at feeding into just general comfort regarding cushness of the midsole, but then also just climate of the upper. The second thing to like with this model is it's pretty dang versatile regarding its daily wear functionality. So this model looks pretty good to where you can dress it up, but I've also worn this shoe on light casual hikes. And so if you're somebody that wants that singular shoe for doing a bit of everything, this can be a great option to look into. It has a good aesthetic to it, and its outsole is aggressive enough to grip outdoor surfaces. So I think if you are, for example, on looser terrains, etc., and you want to wear this shoe both indoors and then out, and you want to make sure you have grip, this can be a great option to explore. The third thing to like with this model, and I'm going to blend two kind of pros into one thing, is number one, I think if you like a bit of arch in your shoes and if you have a narrower foot, this model will feel right at home for your foot anatomy. And the other thing to like, which I'm going to lump into the third pro here, is that this model has a lot of sustainability to it. So the outsole, midsole, upper in the shoe, they all have environmentally conscious components to them. And so if you're big on the materials used and sourced in your shoes, this can be a great option to look into. But now let's talk about a couple of cons that I have with this model. So two cons that I have with the UltraRange Neo VR3 is number one, it does run pretty narrow. And so I have an E to double E with foot. I sized up a half size in the shoe and they fit decently well. Now granted, they are a little bit long for my foot anatomy, but I would say size up a half size if you're nervous about this, but if you have exceptionally wide feet, this is just not gonna be a model for you, and I'd probably pass on this model entirely from the Vans line, which is a big bummer. The second con that I have with this shoe, and it's kind of a nitpick aesthetic thing, but I'm nitpicking with this because this is a model that I think most folks are gonna wanna wear for daily wear, is the laces. They run a little bit long and they get kind of awkward, so if you have to tighten the shoe a bunch, even when double knotted, this looks pretty dang long and clunky and just doesn't really look that aesthetic. So it'd be cool to see the laces shortened on future iterations. That's a pretty easy fix. And then also with the tongue itself, I kind of wish the tongue was a smidge longer as well. Right now it's a little bit short and it can kind of fold in. And so with these clunky laces and the tongue starting to fold, it can be kind of annoying at times. Those are two, I know, nitpicks for this model, but they're quality of life updates that I think would just make this shoe chef's kiss. But that said, let's talk about the performance of this shoe. When it comes to the performance of this shoe, I haven't done a ton of training in this model like I have the UltraRange EXO, which is a model that I do like for lifting and cross training. The reason I haven't trained in this shoe is number one, the stack height is just wicked thick, and then number two, you do have exposed foam here and I just don't love that for gym context. Now you could probably do some more casual lifting and cross training in this model, but I have not tested them in that vertical. I'm not going to speak to that. Where I'll talk to this shoe for its performance is multi-season wear, walking, and just general comfort. And so when it comes to the multi-season functionality of this model, it does a pretty good job. Now I will say I do think it has a bias towards winter, fall, and spring. It does have suede overlays. The breathability of this shoe does a good job, but it's not going to be the most wispy shoe. It's not going to be like a knit shoe that has a ton of breathability. And so in stereotypical Vans fashion, it does have a slightly heavier upper with these suede overlays around the forefoot and midfoot. So in the sense of like the spectrum of Vans continuum of maximal breathability and decent breathability, this model is over here for decent breathability, but this isn't going to be the most breathable shoe. So for example, it's like 102 right now in Austin, Texas. This would not necessarily be my go-to pick if I want to keep my feet cool for all day wear. When it comes to general walking, I have thoroughly enjoyed this shoe. I have worn this shoe for traveling, I have worn this shoe for longer hikes and walks, and I have worn this shoe for all day wear when I was just traveling to the airport and standing and walking on my feet all day, and I've liked the overall responsiveness and feel of this midsole. It's thick, but it does have a good amount of flexibility and it breaks in really fast, and so that's always something I generally like with the UltraRange models, and I think if you've worn the VR3 or the XO, you will resonate with this shoe. I do enjoy it for that context. Now I will say something I've noticed with this model with all day wear is I wish the forefoot had a bit more volume. I think that would help contribute to giving you a bit more of a spacious fit up here in the forefoot, and I think that might actually give it a wider fit too. But because we do have the suede overlay that sits kind of low, it does kind of cut into the all day comfort of this shoe. So while it's very comfortable regarding its midsole plushness and comfort, there are certain little nuances that I wish could be tweaked in this model. And it's kind of speaking also to like the laces and tongue, just little tiny nitpicks that would make this shoe, I think, just way more all encompassing for a wider range of asks and foot anatomies. And then also speaking to the comfort of this shoe, something I do enjoy is that you can wear it a little bit looser or snugger, and it doesn't really feel like it's gonna fall off of your feet. Even though this model is sized up half size and it does run a smidge long, even if I wear these looser, I don't feel like I'm having heel slip and whatnot. So I do like the boot security that you get in the shoe, despite it being slightly more low profile. And I think that's because you kind of sit into this midsole back here. So overall, when it comes to multi-season use, I would give this shoe a strong like 7.5, 8 out of 10. Good for 3 seasons, can work for summer, but not the most breathable shoe on the market. When it comes to walking performance and just general comfort, I would give this shoe a strong 8 to 8.5 out of 10. It should work for most folks, especially if your foot anatomy aligns with this shoe. When it comes to the price of this shoe, you can expect to pay $125. Now, I think that price point is fair if you plan to just rock this shoe casually or for a daily wear basis and you plan to rotate them in with other models. Now, if you need a shoe from Vans that has a bit more versatility and you also want to train in it, I would say go with the Vans UltraRange EXO. That price point also is going to align, I think, for those asks better than this model's price would. All right, so now who should buy the MTE UltraRange Neo VR3? So number one, if you want a Vans for traveling and all day wear and you want that singular shoe that you can just slap on your feet and they're gonna feel pretty dang comfortable, that's where the shoe is going to excel. The second context where I think this shoe makes a lot of sense is for my friends out there who like a bit of arch support and have a narrower foot. This model has a pretty aggressive taper, and so if you have a narrow foot and you constantly feel like you're swimming in your shoe's toe boxes, this can be a great option to look into. And the third context where I think this shoe makes sense is if you want that shoe that you can wear casually but then also doing some outdoor activities in, and if you live in a climate where it's a little bit more moderate regarding temperatures. Now, who shouldn't buy this shoe? Number one, wide feet. I'm telling you, just pass on the shoe. Even if you size up, I don't think you're gonna have enough width in this model's forefoot to make it worth it. Number two, if you're somebody who needs a Vans for training and you need a Vans for cross training or lifting more specifically, there are a lot of better options out there. This model is not gonna be it. So I would just say pass on this shoe entirely for that context as well. All right, so when it comes to sizing, pay attention to the section. So for most folks, size up a half size in this shoe. Now, if you have notably narrow feet and you know that, you might be safe going true to size, but for everybody else like myself who have slightly wider feet or even medium width feet, so I have an E to double E with foot and normal arch, sizing up a half size I think is a safe call in the shoe because the toe box I think is just gonna feel too snug, and so sizing up does give you a bit more wiggle room there. So again, narrow feet, true to size. Everybody else, size up a half size. If you have 3E plus width feet, do not buy this shoe. Do not waste your money. I promise you it's likely not going to fit you. All right, so now let's cover the weight, heel to toe drop, and insole in this model. So for my size 10.5, again, I have gone up a half size in this shoe. We have a weight of 12.30 ounces. The heel to toe drop of this shoe is not disclosed on Vans sites or basically through any retailers, but it doesn't really feel fully flat. I almost feel like there's a low drop to the shoe, but again, that's just based off of my interpretations of how the shoe feels on my foot compared to other models that I've reviewed. When it comes to the insole of the shoe does not come out. It has a light adhesive that's keeping it in, and it's also why I don't love this shoe for thicker feet and why I think the volume up here in the forefoot can be problematic for some folks. All right, so now let's cover the construction of this shoe. So up here on the toe box, we have these leatherish overlays here. They almost feel like a suede, but it's this Vans leather that runs from the forefoot into the midfoot of this shoe. You also have some leather overlays that enclose this midfoot back here, and then also back here on the heel. It gives the upper a bit more of an aesthetic and heavier feel, which is also why I kind of like this shoe more for cooler or more moderate temperature days. We also have some textile materials here through the forefoot into the midfoot as well, and these are a little bit more lightweight and breathable. Looking at the midsole of this shoe, you have the VR3 Cush midsole that runs throughout. This midsole, again, is very comfortable. It has a good level of responsiveness and comfort to it, and it does flex pretty well. So despite the shoe having a slightly higher stack height, it does have a good level of maneuverability to it. Looking at the boot of the shoe, you do have a padded boot here. It is a little bit lower regarding its height on the ankle, and you have an external heel tab here to help pull this shoe on. Looking at the midfoot, You have 6 core eyelets that go up. You have a traditional lacing system, and then you have this padded mesh and textile tongue here with some Vans branding. This tongue, I think, could be reworked a little bit. I feel like either widened or brought up a tiny bit, as already mentioned, because it does kind of fold at times despite having a lower gusset to it. Looking at the outsole of this shoe, you have a rubber tread up here in the forefoot and heel of this model, and the lugs are decently aggressive, so you can wear the shoe outdoors, and it gives you a good amount of bite. Now, you do have some exposed foam here through the midfoot, but thus far, honestly, mine has done pretty good with durability. There isn't a ton of wear on these lugs just yet, so I have been pretty happy with this shoe overall regarding its outsole tread patterning and durability. But that pretty much wraps up this shoe's construction. There are a lot of sustainable materials in this model as well. Definitely check those out on the product page. But if you have additional questions on the construction callouts of this shoe in this video, drop a comment down below. All right, y'all, that wraps up my review of the Vans MTE UltraRange Neo VR3, and that is such a mouthful. Now, would I get this shoe again? Despite loving the comfort of this model, I likely wouldn't, because I want the toe box reworked. I just need a wider shoe, and I think if you are thinking about buying this shoe and your foot anatomy aligns with this model, it makes sense and it's worth it. But I think for the vast majority of folks, this model is just gonna feel a bit too snug, and if Vans made this into a wide version or just made the toe box a bit more boxy, we would be cooking with gas, people. But all that to say, if you have additional questions on this model, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, y'all, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.